Hello, welcome to Philosophy, Science, and Religion. I'm Chandler Klebs, and I'm here with Poffo Ortiz and George Ortega. And it's been a little bit of a while since we've actually done a podcast because for the past week or so, I've actually been a little bit depressed, and I'm going to talk about why today. You guys know that we cover some very upsetting topics on this show. And after we had that one conversation with Peter, I was feeling really down. You know what I mean? I was just feeling really down at how callous people can be and how they actually, the way he preferred for real animals to be killed rather than the synthetic meat.
It's fascinating because Peter is the last person who would ever say that he's insensitive or callous. He would swear up and down that he is like one of the most compassionate people that's out there. But this ties into what the actual problem is, and it comes down to speciesism and the inculcation or the belief system, the mentality that animals are here for us to use, that animals can be treated as objects, that we even need to use animals for anything at all. I'd like to respond to the subject of the lab-grown meat in that on a certain level, it's a form of pacifism. It's pacifying the carnage nature, the people who believe that they can't live without meat, and essentially saying, okay, well, since you can't do anything else, then let's just give them something, that's like meat, but no animals are really harmed in the process. But it's still perpetuating the idea that we need to eat meat, or that meat is somehow even good for us. So I think in the long run, I don't think it's actually tackling the root problem, the root core issue of it all. Like what the real issue is the mentality that we need to eat animals to survive, which is completely untrue. You can argue and justify, and usually it's meat eaters who are all for the lab-grown meat, compassionate, meat eaters who understand the suffering involved, and so they're seeing it as an answer. But it's really, to me, it's just a form of compromise. I wouldn't eat it myself. I can understand that the minimization of suffering on a certain level, but on another level, on a philosophical level, it's not actually tackling the root problem. The root problem is the mentality. And real quick, I don't want to ramble too long, but I just watched a video, and I sent it to you, Chandler, of a dog being boiled alive. Okay, a dog in a giant pot that's being jabbed at with a fucking stick, and the people are laughing about it, and the dog is literally, having scalding hot water all over its body. What kind of a human being can do this to another life form, to another animal? And the answer is any human being that's raised in a culture that doesn't honor and respect life. Because I'm getting comments on the post saying, oh, this son of a bitch, like, if I was there, I would kill him. I would do the same thing to him. It just give me 10 minutes in a room with this guy. But it's not just one guy. It's an entire population. It's an entire culture, because here in the West, chickens are boiled alive. Pigs are boiled alive. Lobsters are boiled alive. Their limbs are ripped from their bodies. And we don't even think about this stuff because they don't have a voice. They don't speak the way we do. And that's the problem. Like, I'm trying to get to the core root issue of it all is why do we view other animals, other species, even other people, other races that look different than us, we view them as inferior. And that's the real problem. That's the root cause of all of this pain and suffering. So if you want to eliminate pain and suffering, you have to change the mentality. You have to institute a new philosophy. You have to raise up a whole new generation of people who think differently, who fundamentally think differently than our culture thinks. And really the way human beings have thought for thousands of years when it comes to those that look different, that are different colors or different shapes and sizes, as Gary Yourofsky would say. So there you go.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with everything you said, Poffo, because here's the thing is, I don't like this whole compromise. I don't like the fact that we're serving the carnist mindset by offering special lab-grown meat. Like, I don't like that because the mindset is wrong. And like you, I want to change the mindset. And here's the thing, like, I read a part of one of Temple Grandin's books, and I remember she said something how it'd be nice if the world went vegetarian, but they're not going to. Like, so she's compromising because she doesn't believe that people can change. And
the appeal to futility. It's an appeal to futility logical fallacy that the problem is so insurmountable, it's so overwhelming that we'll never really be able to get the whole world to go vegan. So at least let's just try and help, and make things a little bit better. Let's create better conditions, and when the animals that are going to be raised to be slaughtered, let's try to give them a better environment and stuff like that. And that's all. I don't agree with it. I mean, you could argue on one level that it's progress. On another level, it's not really getting to the core issue. Like I said before. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. See, here's the deal. It's not like, here's for example, it's not that I'm against it because I'm not against them. Like, it's weird because I'm not against them suffering less, but I'm against killing them at all. So it's like, wait a minute, so it's kind of like this lesser of two evils thing. And all the co-hosts who are regulars on this show, they know I don't like lesser of two evils. This happened around the Hillary Trump time. Like, sure, maybe Hillary is a lesser evil than Trump, but I still don't like her. So it's like,
how about politics, and how about all politics and government as it exists today right now is corrupt, and we should boycott all of it. And start and institute a new system, like create a completely new paradigm instead of working through the corrupt system that already exists. Yeah, that's why I don't vote. I don't support any of it.
Yeah. Now your audio is cutting out a little bit. I wonder if it's
Sorry,
because
my fan is on. I don't know. Is it better now? It's like really hot where I am right now.
Well, I wonder if it has to do with the fact that your video's on, like it's using so much bandwidth just to display your video.
Sure. I'll turn off my video. Sure.
Yeah, that may help because sometimes it's showing me like a word.
Can you hear my fan right now?
Yeah, I can hear your fan just a little bit.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, but yeah, I mean, here's the thing: is that's how I feel. Is I feel like I want to be a non-participant. If I have to choose between the lesser of two evils, I don't want to participate at all. And this is very interesting because I try to like have a positive outlook, but I also don't want to deceive myself. Like, it does look as if, the world's never going to go vegan. It looks that way. And
on some days it does. On other days it doesn't. On other days it seems really hopeful. It just depends on the numbers that you're reading and who you're talking to and what circles you're in.
Yeah.
But it just really comes down to if we actually did the statistical analysis of it, it's actually the fastest growing movement that's ever existed. It's growing as fast as Christianity, and it's not even something that's being enforced by the sword.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing is, like, it may look from my perspective right now that there's no hope because I just happen, all the people that I am around on a daily basis are just, such idiots, honestly, and like, here's an example, guys, of the kind of thing that upsets me is, sometimes I'm invited to go out to eat with the people I work with, and it always seems to happen one way or another where I get asked these questions and people are all curious about the vegan, like, why don't you put butter on your potato? And another guy is saying I would die without steak. And I didn't even tell him to not eat meat, but it's just by finding out that I don't eat meat, then he starts trying to defend his eating of steak. And so what happens is I get so frustrated by that and the fact that I'm sacking all the meat and dairy products all day long at my job, it just
Chandler, there's a growing movement. There's actually a movement now that of saying no to eating with meat eaters. Like, it's literally like you object to it and you make it a point to let them know why. Like, we can actually take a greater stand and not sit down to eat next to meat eaters and let them know why we're not doing that. We're not going to support in any way. And it's like we're it's almost like we're complicit to it. Like we're sitting there observing what we're on a deeply fundamental level, what we're like ethically against. So why should we be quiet about it? Why should we be the odd ones out?
Chandler, I wanted to address your discouragement about like that people will always be vegan. Actually, very ironically, because the livestock industry comprises about 18%, or it could be much higher, of the greenhouse gas emissions. Over the next several decades, eventually people are going to like wake up and start addressing climate change, and you can't effectively address climate change without addressing the livestock. So I have a feeling, yes, people, in 5 to 10 years, in vitro meat will cost the same amount as regular meat, and there will be probably without any kind of like animal contribution. I mean, like, and that it's not the perfect, but it's good enough. I mean, it's good enough that I think once people realize that, and I was saying this before, once people realize that they can like create meat without killing the animals, then these companies that can make billions of money on this meat will start to sensitize the people to the unnecessary pain that dairy cows are going through, the chickens are going through. So between climate change and this in vitro revolution, it shouldn't be more than a couple of decades where like the vast majority of people are actually, in effect, being vegan.
I'm not against it. I'm not against it at all. But at the same time, I'm not gonna support it, like, as the answer to everything, because the real answer is to change the mindset of the populace, and that doesn't do anything to change the mindset. That's just placating them and giving them what they want, but doing it in a less harmful way towards the environment.
Something. It does something. In other words, it provides incentive.
George, but because what ends up happening is, what if they don't have access to it? Well, then they're just going to get their meat the old-fashioned way. You see what I'm saying? Because it's not, their mentality is still stuck in, I need meat to survive. That's the problem.
No, once this meat is available, cost-effective, chances are, slaughtering cattle will be outlawed. It will be against the law.
I mean, it'd be wonderful, and all this stuff is speculation, so I can't really, comment on it, like how soon it's going to happen or how affordable it'll be and stuff like that. I mean, I would hope that will be one of the one of the influencing factors that moves us away from all this. Have you heard about the ticks? The ticks that are like carrying like a certain infectious disease that actually causes people to have an allergic reaction to meat, so that they're being forced into veganism. And I wanted to make a discussion out of it. Like, what if Mother Nature is actually balancing the scales, and it's like, just naturally, like, people are not going to be able to eat meat anymore because of these infections that these ticks are carrying, that are causing people to get violently ill. And they're trying to come up with vaccines for it and stuff like that, but there's no cure for it. Once you contract it, you get sick every time you eat meat now. And so people making jokes like, let's drop these in by the thousands over the population and let everybody get infected. And have you heard of this?
Oh, well, it's funny that you mentioned that, Poffo, because that guy who said that he would die with that steak, he actually mentioned that there's some tick that makes you allergic to meat. And
Can you imagine if that and it's, we don't have to do anything at all. It's like nature itself is just balancing things out. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah, I mean, see, that's the thing about it, is that's actually very interesting. I'm like, yeah, we should spread that, I mean, just imagine.
And then, of course, people are firing back saying, well, no, because it's going to make people violently ill. What's wrong with you? Why would you want to infect people? And, Chandler, probably since the last time we talked till now, I've become very, very misanthropic myself. I am really caring less and less about the human race. That doesn't mean that I don't still believe in the potentiality that we have, the potential. But I in light of such horrid violence and cruelty and abuse, what I'm exposed to as a animal rights activist, what I'm constantly exposed to, and what I'm constantly sharing and talking about and arguing with people about, and it's made me. There's an urgency here. Like, I feel like this is another reason why I might have not participated as often in the podcast and stuff, and also in online discussions, because I feel like they're fruitless. Like, speaking about all of these sort of pseudo intellectual, scientific, philosophical, quasi important things, to me it doesn't hold the relevance anymore when I know that right now the Yulin Dog Festival is going on and thousands of dogs are being tortured right now. And right now, like, everywhere we go, there is cruelty and violence, and it's being promoted and endorsed and completely propagated. So I just feel that, in terms of minimizing suffering, in terms of trying to really make things better, this is something that I can directly do. And taking it from the philosophical standpoint of trying to change the mentality, and also really going out, speaking out, and engaging with people. So that's why my focus is shifted.
Yes,
that.
Yeah. See, I agree, Poffo. And see, here's how I feel: I feel that it takes humans too long to get their shit together. And this idea of just slowly waiting for centuries while people slowly transition into veganism, that's not good enough for me. I would rather have everybody be infected with the disease so that when they eat animal products, they get sick. Because that would, like a Pavlovian response, they would learn to stop doing it because it'd make them sick. They'd stop doing it regardless of whether they cared about those other animals. And so it's like, I want whatever it takes, because I've...
So the guy that I'm going to see right now, Will Tuttle, if you're familiar with him, I mean, he comes at it from a very interesting perspective, the spiritual perspective. He's saying that because we are ingesting and taking into our bodies the pain, the torture, the misery, that's what we're actually, that's what we're getting. We're like reaping what we sow. And that's why we're suffering cancer. That's why there's broken homes. That's why there is rape. That's why there's violence and diseases and all these different things, because that's what we're doing to the animals. He literally believes that there's this karmic effect that's happening, where it's being passed on to us, and really the only way to know peace is to just end speciesism and literally starting with the animals, and it'll make our lives better. And I don't know, it's interesting because I actually don't even feel any healthier, to be honest. I don't feel any more spiritually clean since I've gone vegan. I just know that I'm doing the right thing, and I just make that ethical decision. I'm much more burdened now because it's become, it's completely overtaken my life. This is all I do. But I don't have those might be sort of psychosomatic reactions, because a lot of people say that they just feel so much better because they're eating clean food now. And I mean, I love fruits and vegetables, and I eat as much as I want. I don't have this spiritual experience. I have spiritual experiences in other ways, but it's an interesting perspective. Are you guys familiar with Will Tuttle at all?
Not really. Although after you told me about him earlier today, I looked at his website and I read the review on one of his books, and apparently there were some really good reviews. People really liked it, So yeah, I mean,
do you know who he is, George?
No, this is the first time I hear about him.
He's a composer, a musician, an author. I believe he is like he's kind of a shaman. He comes at it from the Eastern traditions, and it's very interesting. I mean, I'll link you guys to some of his talks, his lectures and stuff. But he's merging. He's coming at it, like, of course, recognizing the health and the environment and the spiritual side. That literally spiritual meaning on a almost on a metaphysical level, like I don't know, you get whatever you put in is what you get out, and that's basically to summarize it. Like, so we're putting in torture and misery and violence and pain and death and cruelty and oppression. So that's what happens in human society.
Between the way we treat other species and the way we treat the poor and the way we treat animals, or the way we we treat the environment, and the way we treat unborn babies and all. Yes, I have a feeling that climate change is nature's way of saying, all right, things have to change. It's like there's this natural justice.
I wish like Avatar. Remember in Avatar when the planet itself, the animals and everything, the planet actually as one living symbiotic organism comes together and fights to protect the life forms there. I love that moment in Avatar. But I had a sadness when I left that theater because I said I wish this was so, but nature isn't conscious right now, so it'll never do that. Like it'll never know.
Well, it's interesting.
Yeah.
We're part of nature, and it's interesting. Like in terms of vegan or animal rights activists, some government agency classified them as the most serious
threat.
terrorist threat.
Yeah.
So hold on. So basically, I wouldn't be surprised if that tick that you're referring to is used by as a main line of attack by these activists that are no longer allowed to film things and all this. I mean, there are really strong penalties against that now. So we human beings being part of nature, and I agree, would be easily the lesser of two evils. If somebody gets so sick while eating meat, they're going to stop eating meat. That's great.
If you've seen Clockwork Orange, it's the same thing. Yeah, it's a conditioned response. And I wanted to say that the reason why that we're considered terrorists is because we are directly threatening the largest financial institutions on the planet right now, which is the animal agriculture, pharmaceutical companies. They're all in cahoots. They're all feeding off of each other, feeding off of people's sickness, and basically exploiting the environment, but making money off it, making money off the sick people, and making money off of the abuse and the oppression and exploitation of animals. Yeah. So they see us as terrorists because we threaten the very, sort of lifeblood of Texas, of conservative America, of traditional, Western diet, which makes billions and billions of dollars, from the animals and also from treating people who develop cancer and diabetes and heart disease and are suffering obesity. So it's all, if you watch What the Health, you see how it's all interrelated.
Yeah. So George, were you saying that they were basically saying that vegans were terrorists?
Yeah, this book that I've been reading, it's like the government, whether it was, I don't know if it's currently, it's probably before the recent terrorism, before 9/11. But maybe not. They, animal activists, by some, FBI, some government agency listed them as the most dangerous internal terrorist organization.
It's true. If you watch Cowspiracy, it's in there. It's true. What was I going to say? Back to that tick thing. I don't think. A few different things. Some people are saying finally the. Playing Dr. Frankenstein, playing God, the genetic modification, it's actually going to work in a good way. And so they're saying that they created it. And then other people are saying, no, great. Now the vegans are going to jump on this and blah, blah, blah. They're probably going to try to, drop them all, over populations and stuff like that. And I'm just saying, I think it's fascinating because if it brings about the result that we want, that is nature, like stepping in a weird way. I mean, that nature seeks homeostasis, and according to what I believe, if all of nature is really one singular organism that's just not coherent and conscious, but on a latent unconscious level, it's aware of everything. Then it's reacting instinctually to what it knows is the threat, which is animal agriculture and the consumption of meat, eggs, and dairy.
Yeah, it's very interesting. This view that Will Tuttle guy has. Like it's some kind of a spiritual thing. Like a karma thing where I would say it's kind of like you are what you eat. If you eat torture and death, that's what you're gonna get. Now I'm not so sure how far I go with that. But, I mean, we do reap what we sow. I don't necessarily think that the planet is conscious and doing this intentionally like it was in Avatar. But nonetheless, It's the same type of effect we're experiencing.
All right, but wait, let me, Chandler, with this, if you believe that we reap what we sow. I believe that too. But I mean, how do you believe that within an atheist perspective? I mean, in other words, like there would have to be some kind of like a natural mechanism that explains karma.
Well, what I mean is, we have a cause and effect thing going on. It's just like, when you're rude to other people, they get rude to you back, So it just happens through conscious life forms and, basically. But
so it's like the law of nature. Okay.
Yeah.
I think he's looking at it like in terms of just consequences of our actions, like doing things in balance or doing things that are destructive and wasteful. Obviously, we're just gonna experience the consequences of those negative behaviors. Right. I want to throw in a anecdotal. I mean, not really anecdotal, but just a personal experience of what I'm gonna throw this out there, and then you guys can analyze it. Okay. My girlfriend's parents are staying with us, and the minute they showed up, they brought their own groceries, and Amber had already planned to make like all these great vegan meals, and we had tons of vegetables and fruits, and I even bought tofu. I was going to make all this great stir fry and stuff to kind of show them they're obviously they're not, they're meat eaters, they're not vegan, and they're really old fashioned, and they don't even understand veganism. But so they showed up, and like immediately she's got 2 tubs of ice cream that she's putting in my freezer, and like a big thing of like ground beef. And then within the next like 20 minutes, she's cooking using my frying pan, using my stuff. And like the whole house starts to reek of like this smell and remember, it's been over a year. I've been vegan. I haven't eaten meat in over a year. And before that I was vegetarian. So I'm like smelling this like disgusting, this disgusting odor that just literally smells like death to me. And it's not just that I psychologically know what it is. I literally started getting nauseous. Like the smell was making me sick. And my apartment is small. And basically she's cooking ground beef in its own grease in a frying pan on the stovetop. And the whole house is like just completely like saturated with this smell of burning fat and I can't even explain it. And I felt nauseous and I felt sick. And it's also really hot here right now. I had to leave. I actually left the house to go for a walk because I couldn't breathe. I was getting angry inside. I was getting like I was feeling myself just like this rage building. This is the first time I felt uncomfortable in my house because basically I just allowed people to come in and start doing something that 24/7 I'm 100% opposed to, and I'm sharing animal cruelty videos. I'm talking about it constantly. I'm the organizer for Anonymous for the Voiceless here in the Portland chapter. This is what occupies my whole life. And then right here in my own kitchen, she's literally cooking dead flesh of a cow, and I had to deal with that. I had to reconcile. This was the first time that I really had to deal with the pressures of sort of the people who've been inculcated and who see nothing wrong with it. And it was just gross. I was watching her mom just basically stirring this pan and it made me sick. And it wasn't just psychosomatic. I was literally nauseous from it. So think about that. I mean, I'm as a vegan, you become much more sensitive to the smell of meat and of death, and I can't believe that we've gone so many years, before we make these transitions that we don't even think about it. Like it doesn't even affect us, or we might even enjoy the smell. I mean, I still like the smell of barbecue, but that's more like the charcoal, in the grill. But literally, I can't stand the smell of meat. Like it made me sick.
Yeah, I know what you mean, Poffo, because when you're used to it, when you've grown up your whole life that way, and you're used to it, you don't think anything of it. But then after you've been vegan, and then you're around the smell of meat, I know this myself, I can't stand it. And it's on 2 levels. I mean, on a certain level, I think it could just be the smell of it and being exposed to that death that affects me physically. But at the same time, I think a lot of what makes me sick is just knowing that I still live in a world full of this carnism, and I just want it to end, and I'm disgusted by it. You know what I mean?
Oh, all right, but Chandler, that kind of like brings up what you were talking about before about being frustrated about trying to make the world better, and that it doesn't seem to be working fast enough. And whether it's like global poverty or climate change or the abuse of animals, it really doesn't help us. It doesn't help the animals or the planet or people for us to suffer. In other words, some people believe that like if we don't suffer this stuff, that indicates that we're not good people. Sometimes I think we're conditioned to suffer, out of
Sure.
kind of like a show of our own morality.
Like we're obligated to. Yeah.
But what I'm thinking is that, no, I think that people may feel that way, but I think it's much wiser and it's much more moral to do what we do from the standpoint of happiness. In other words, to the extent we let it get to us, however way it might, then they're winning and we become disempowered as we're dealing with more suffering.
I'd like to address that, George. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And all it is that nuanced idea that we should never stop being aware, and we should expose ourselves to it because that's what motivates us. That's what motivated me to want to talk after I watched the video I watched earlier, like I said. But at the same time, you have to be okay. Like you need to make sure that you're stable, that you're grounded, that you're emotionally sound, and you're not like, just a wreck. You're not falling apart. So this is where it gets into trying to avoid burnout and like putting yourself in environments and stuff that are therapeutic and that where you can kind of help yourself rebuild and recharge and get back the energy and stuff, because it is so exhausting and it's so emotionally depleting, and we expose ourselves to so much horror and atrocity that like we have to balance it out with just as much good and just as much positivity, and it's really difficult because we're driven to just want things to change, but remember that we're just tools, we're just vessels for that. So if we're dysfunctional, if we can't if we can't be okay ourselves, then we're no good for the cause. So it's just about that balance.
Yeah, see, and here's the thing about it. Like with me, I mean, I do get depressed and I do get burnout because you know how I am. I just want everything to change. I want a perfect world where there's no suffering and it's like, but here's what bothers me is that then when I start getting depressed, then I feel like, well, people are going to look at me and like, oh, I'm an unhappy person. So then they're not going to want to be vegan like me because they're going to think, oh, vegans are miserable and unhappy and only complain, Yeah,
and there's that temptation. We want to make it attractive so that they don't think that, oh, great, well, I don't want to be vegan because they're miserable all the time and they're always so serious and they're always thinking about all this negative shit.
Yeah. So what happens here is first I'm feeling bad because of all the suffering in the world. Then I'm feeling bad because I'm feeling bad and therefore I'm not a good example because I need to be a happy example. And so then I just get more frustrated because I cannot be the perfect vegan activist.
Chandler, you're doing exactly what I think we both did when we were Christians, man. That's exactly what what I went through as a Christian, basically feeling guilty for not, setting a better example, for not living the perfect righteous life, and then you get depressed, and then you're depressed because you're depressed, man. Can you relate to that? You probably were the same exact way as a Christian, that feeling like you weren't, a light for the, you're supposed to be the light of the world and salt of the earth and supposed to set that example and stuff. Like this is a level of idealism that a self-imposed kind of thing that we're putting on ourselves. This
but
obligation.
Guys, you got to realize, to the extent we do that, we are being immoral. Because in other words, like part of morality is to not just be good and be concerned about the world, but to be concerned about ourselves as well. So like it's not virtuous to become a martyr. It's not virtuous to suffer this pain. And the other part, it's not necessary. Again, we've been conditioned to think that, well, if we're not suffering what we care about, that means we don't really care.
The stories we tell.
Hold on, Poffo.
Sorry.
Come on. Don't
Sorry, go ahead.
So basically, that's a lot of people that promote that mindset are the people that like fake it. They kind of like, they cry crocodile tears. They're concerned with other people thinking they care when they don't. So you can't buy into that tactic. You can't buy into that manipulation. You have to understand that like you're being good and your being good doesn't require you to suffer what you can't change.
Well, yeah, I agree, George, but I actually wanted to respond to what Poffo was saying. I do think this is a carryover from my Christian days, because I felt the same way. I always felt like I was never a good enough Christian because I was trying to live up to some ideal while at the same time trying to figure out what that ideal was supposed to be. And so I think I'm making the same mistake now as I did back then. I'm feeling like this guilt, like on a rational level, I know I should not be feeling this guilt, and yet I still am in some way, because I'm feeling bad about feeling bad and getting depressed that I'm depressed. And my thing is, I know that this is not necessary, and I know it's not helpful, but I don't know how to stop it, and that's what I need help with.
Chandler, okay, here's the thing. When we were learning our times tables, it's not like the teacher taught it to us once and we know it and then we go on to learning some other topic. Basically, it's not just about knowing that unpleasant emotions are not necessary, not helpful, and usually make things worse. It's about knowing it so well that you can act on it. So in other words, like Chandler, with the free will thing, we know that it's one thing to understand that there's no free will. It's another thing to be able to be that way. And so I think you've succeeded to a certain extent in not holding people accountable, because they don't have a free will. So it's just a matter of expending that same energy to really even using morality to convince yourself that, oh, wait a minute, if I suffer, I am doing something wrong. Feel guilty about the suffering.
I agree with all. I just wanted to interject, and sorry if I was interrupting you earlier, George. I just wanted to say that it's the cultural myths that exist right now that actually perpetuate this. They actually promote this. It's literally Judeo-Christian mentality is suffering for righteousness. It's all about self-sacrifice. It's always about sacrifice. It's always about having to give up things. It's always about denial, self-denial, mortification of the body. Asceticism. This is the idea of asceticism, and literally, denigrating your own flesh for the sake of purity and godliness, and it's wrong. We need to have a new cultural myth that says balance is more important than sacrifice. Because why is it so necessary to always have to give everything up, to always completely expend yourself? And that makes you a decent, righteous person. Every movie, every story, every myth that comes out that people follow, whatever it is, whatever medium, it's always about the hero giving up everything, sacrificing himself. Why is that necessary? Why not keep yourself alive, keep yourself as healthy and fit as possible, and then do as much good as you can? Why is it always this cultural narrative that's injected in, and it's sort of it's everywhere. It's everywhere embedded in the culture that we're supposed to just give up everything and dishonor ourselves for the sake of others, and that's noble. And I'm saying that comes directly from religion, from Christianity, from Judaism. That's exactly what they teach.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. What they teach is that sacrifice is a virtue. They teach that somehow you're doing it, the more unhappy you are, the better a person you are, which is really bizarre. I mean, yeah, I've seen that. I mean, you find that with some Hindus and Buddhists and Jains. You see that in Catholicism too. You see, that people think that their suffering is somehow doing some good. But first of all, is it really? Is it really helping anyone when we suffer?
It's just human constructs, human ideas of what godliness is. It's been self-imposed. It's our own sort of warped, twisted idea.
Here's how I think it starts. If you're an infant or a toddler and you're in pain, for the mother or father, the caregivers, to kind of imitate or mimic that emotion, kind of consoles the infant or the toddler that, oh yes, they understand. So I think when we're very young, basically we kind of we value another person's feeling our pain. But once we understand language and become adults, that strategy is, I mean, we still, we're conditioned to when we tell somebody, about something bad that's happening to us, when they feel pain, we somehow feel better, and we've got to overcome that evolutionarily.
Yeah.
We have to kind of realize that no, the better strategy is to tell them, listen, I feel really, this is really unfortunate. I'm sorry about it, but not from the standpoint of feeling that pain.
Sympathetic neurons, and the Bible says, "Mourn with those who mourn, and blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, and those who suffer, will inherit the kingdom of God." Like, it's all in the narrative there. But I agree. Like, we need to be strong and stable and secure ourselves so that we can do the most amount of good that we can. Otherwise, we succumb to the same evil.
In politics, this is like something serious, because basically, decade after decade, regardless of who's in power, whether the Democrats are in power or the Republicans, conservatives are much happier than Democrats. And I think it's understandable, because like a lot of Republicans,
they're delusional.
Conservatives are callous. They're indifferent. They don't care. But so what happens is, like, when people are listening to, let's say, a conservative and a liberal, at some kind of rally or something, if the conservative is coming across as much happier, that appeals to people. If the Democrat or the liberal is saying, well, you got to worry about this, you got to suffer this and that partly explains, why conservatism is as popular as it is. We liberals, Democrats, need to understand that our suffering is preventing people from appreciating our point and working with us.
Yeah, and see, this is an important point, George, because basically what happens is people look at a person who's happier and they automatically think that, well, that person's happier, so they're more fun, so we should listen to them. They must be right because they're happy. And so in a sense, the trouble that we have is we have to find a way to reverse this. We have to make sure that the people who are in the right, who know their facts and who care about the right things, are happy, they're attractive, they're appealing, so that people will listen.
James Aspey is a great example of this. He's so positive. He's a vegan animal rights activist from Australia, and he's such a nice, warm, like, kind of amiable guy, and it comes across like always. When he speaks, I notice how he speaks. He speaks like when he's talking when he's doing outreach. He says, this is how we feel, man. Like, we both feel this way, don't we? And he always speaks in like we and us, and he doesn't like say you and me. He always sort of includes you like you're already brothers, like you're already friends, and that it's very subtle, but like it's effective. And he, what's the word? Like, he sort of associates himself with everyone, and he says, we all say we love animals, we all say we're against animal cruelty, but we pay people to torture and mutilate and murder them. And so we just need to let our lifestyles and let our choices, line up with our value system, because we're all good people on the inside. Like he says this, we're all good people, and no one would ever allow this to happen to a dog or a cat, but we let it happen to cows and pigs and chickens and sheep and turkeys and fish. So it's all about just like living up to the value system we already hold. See, I'm not even that generous. I'll say, no, a lot of people are just garbage, and I know that they're garbage because of their environment. They've been completely raised, and they're just a product of what they've been raised in. And but at the same time, I'm like, people have potential within them, and in every person, we can rise to the heights, or we can sink down to the depths of depravity. I've seen the worst of human behavior, and I've seen the best of it. So I see both. So I'm not as optimistic, I guess, but it helps to be optimistic when you're speaking to people.
All right. Recently, I mentioned this to some of you guys. I read this book, The Singularity is Near, by this Google executive, Ray Kurzweil, one of the top, ideas people in Google. And basically what I've been learning through that book and through now a few other books is that over these next several decades, we're going to be engineering, genetic engineering, maybe nanorobots, an end to suffering in human beings. So basically, in terms of being optimistic, consider that this suffering of animals, of human beings, has been going on for tens of thousands of years, right? Where now we're just like 2-3 decades away from like completely eradicating this suffering, which is what we're most about. And so like that gives us something to really feel good about. I mean, like, I'm 59. I may not live to see all that, but knowing that the kind of world that I want and I've worked so hard for over 35 years is right around the corner, that makes me feel really good.
And that's a key. What George is talking about, Chandler, is a key for both of us, that we need to expose ourselves to the progressive technologies, the advanced technologies. We need to expose ourselves to the positive steps that are happening, like the achievements that are going on, and balance it all out, because we do spend so much time focusing on the negative to try and make other people aware of the negative, that we get overwhelmed, and we need to just keep our minds open and recognize the limitless possibilities, of human evolution.
Yeah, that maintaining that balance is a very difficult thing to do here. And see, here's a feeling I have though. Like, there's all these discoveries that may, solve a lot of the human problems. But here's kind of how I've been feeling lately, guys. Because I've been feeling like, to the extent that people find all these things that solve these human problems, that will extend the lives of the humans, but they'll still be causing all the harm to the other animals. And how I feel about it is that even if we solved all the human problems, that still wouldn't solve the harm those humans are doing to those other animals. Like, I'm afraid that by making people happy, we'll just have them be more complacent and more ignorant and continue to do what they're doing.
All right. Well, Chandler, what I've discovered recently by reading that book, The Hedonistic Imperative, David Pierce, is that this technology that can work for us as human beings, whether it's genetic engineering or these nanorobots, they can work. These technologies can work for other animals as well. So, and the idea is like, I understand your concern that, as people become happier, they, actually, no. According to the research, as people become happier, they tend to become more compassionate. And the reasoning behind that is that, like, unhappy people are the ones who will, like, take advantage of others, the ones who will abuse others, abuse animals, because that's the best they can do in terms of, like, becoming happy.
Structural violence, it comes from scarcity. When we don't have our needs met,
Yeah. Well, yeah, and so it's interesting because I want people to be happy, but not through ignorance. Like, I don't want people to be happy because they're ignorant of all the suffering going on. But
that's what happens with wealth. That's what wealth and power does. It actually separates people, puts them in a bubble. I mean, Hollywood is in its own bubble. And the rich and the affluent, like, who basically aren't exposed to any of the atrocities and don't have to struggle and aren't down in the trenches dealing with stuff. They've got everything basically handed to them. And they become, apathetic and lazy and basically spoiled and selfish, and even more selfish. The more,
guys, I gotta get Nick just came, so I gotta get going. All right, I'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care, George. Good talking to you again, man.
Yeah. So there's still some things I want to say too, because Poffo, as long as you're available, you and I can just finish up this thought here. See, my thing is, I'm afraid that, like, there's a balance that has to be maintained, because I'm afraid if people are too happy, they will just get distracted with what makes them happy, and then they won't care about anything.
Right. But there's a nuance here, Chandler. Think about it though. It's not that people are just going to be happy. It's that their needs are going to be met, which frees them up to think more deeply, to pursue their passions, to pursue the things that matter, art and poetry and music and science and creativity, and they can innovate because they're not under this constant pressure, the struggle of what the monetary system puts on us to do whatever is necessary to make ends meet. So it's meeting the basic needs will free people up. Now, even with animals, non-human animals, we'll see this when they're fed, when they're well fed, they actually become greedy and they actually start to fight with each other, and they'll become self-centered and selfish and spoiled. So the cure to that, the way to balance that out and keep that from happening, is literally to keep people educated and to keep people inspired and to keep novelty, keep like a sense of holy curiosity in the natural world, like always being able to explore new things, to learn new things, also exploring your own sort of talents and skills and abilities, and growing and advancing at whatever it is you're good at whatever your interests are. So money is no object, right? Give people everything they want, basically have their basic needs met. And some would argue that we will just fall into debauchery and a hedonistic lifestyle, and that's true on a certain level. But even that will get dull and boring after a while, and they'll crave greater and greater heightened experiences. So like it's there's got to just be that balance there of not keeping people in a bubble of pleasure, but keeping people literally in homeostasis, in balance, in peace, giving them peace. Don't think of it as happiness, give them peace. And then they will develop, because happiness truly comes from real fulfillment. It comes from being creative. It comes from exploring your gifts, exploring the earth, exploring other people, relationships, and achieving things, like always accomplishing something. Like as long as there's always a challenge, then there'll always be something. There'll be fulfillment. You just can't avoid that, because that's the nature of life. Because of entropy, there'll always be challenges. But we're talking about just giving people the basics, universal basic income, resource-based economy, like meeting their basic needs, giving them peace, giving them peace of mind and health, and that will then free them up to pursue happiness in their own way. And you're not going to have this kind of depravity and structural violence that we see today, because we're living in an imbalanced, chaotic system where the few are benefiting when all the rest are suffering. And we've got to get rid of the stratification. We've got to get rid of the speciesism and this this mentality that the haves and the have-nots. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, here's the thing about it is that I want there to be a resource-based economy eventually. I want the whole monetary system done away with completely. But it doesn't look like it ever can happen. It doesn't look like people will ever change, and it's like so I'm just not feeling like there's all these great ideas, but
people are changing, but the people in power aren't changing. That's the problem. People are changing. Like there's a critical mass. There's these movements all over, but the problem is that our government, the system that's in place right now is completely propagates inequality. That's the problem. That the general mass of people who are educating themselves through the internet are moving in a more positive, progressive, like forward-thinking mentality. But the people who are those few who are still in the positions of power. So we need to change the power structure. That's the real problem. Like you will see, as if you talk to as many people as I talk to, that human beings are progressing, but we're still under a form of oppression by our masters, and that's the real problem. We have to oust the masters, the pharmaceutical companies, the politicians, big oil, big industry, corporations, the central banks, the global elite. That's what needs to be completely done away with, and we can do that, but we have to have other systems in place as an alternative to replace it. That's the problem, is that people they know what to do, but the alternative systems are not yet in place. You follow me?
Yeah. It's very interesting. And see, I'm not sure how they would overthrow the leaders. That's the tricky part.
They would overthrow them by making them obsolete, by not being dependent on utility companies anymore, by not being dependent, by not using the currencies that are being printed. We reject the currency. We stop paying taxes. Civil disobedience, man. I've been talking about this from the beginning.
Yeah, well,
I've always been a revolutionary, and these are the ways that you do it. You walk in broad daylight. You walk in with a crowd of 500 people, and you rescue the chickens, like my friend Wayne did. You just walk in and you take them out, and they can't stop you. If you have the numbers, they cannot stop you. You refuse to do what the few who are in power are commanding you to do, and you stand up for your own inalienable human rights.
But what happens if they all go to jail because they do it?
Eventually, when you have thousands of people going to jail, it's more expensive to keep putting them in jail. Basically, like whatever is going to be convenient in order to keep the peace. Okay, remember V for Vendetta at the very end? When you have that many people, okay, when you have that many, the Anonymous, the Guy Fawkes masks, and that you can't do anything. Like the authorities become powerless because you might be able to shoot a few of them, you might be able to incarcerate and punish a few of them, but when you have masses and masses of people, it's the same way that slavery was finally abolished. It's the same way that women finally earn their natural right to vote. It's the same way these hard won things that the people fought for. It's the same way that science finally won out and religion took a backseat when it came to political control and power. So it's just about education, man. Using the media, using the technology that we have, using our voice in whatever way that is, through writing or speaking or through podcasts or making videos, documentaries, whatever it takes, man. It's all just about dissemination of knowledge. Expose people to the information. Enough people will get it, and when there's enough people, things will shift, things will change because they have to. Because it's like the law of the land. It's like the majority rules. Like what if everyone in this culture right now, and the majority of us, thought that it was okay to boil dogs alive and to torture animals and string them up and skin their flesh while they're still crying and screaming. If everyone in all the 50 states, United States, thought that way, that would be going on here. Okay, but we don't think that way here, so that's unheard of. That's not allowed. Okay, and then it's punishable with fines and jail time and whatever. But it's not punishable in China. But if you had enough people in China who felt that way, and I just shared a video of a march where they're marching for animal rights in China. If you have enough people, then those people will become obsolete, and literally you will breed them out. Like generations will grow up thinking differently, like feeling differently, respecting animals, loving nature. That's what's necessary, man. I mean, you and I aren't having children, but ironically, you realize that if the right people were having children, that would solve the problems, because we would be raising up well-educated, well-informed, enlightened people to counteract all the negativity, all the garbage and the evil and the cruelty that's there. But we're not doing that, so we're at a disadvantage. But our advantage is we're devoting our lives to this. This is all we do. So other people who are raising those families and have the obligations, they have these time constraints and these restrictions on them, but we don't have that. We just literally go to work, come home. This is what, like, we're devoting our lives to it, so we're getting more done than they would. Follow me?
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing, and look, man, I really do hope that society does progress in the ways that you're outlining there, where so many people rise up for the right thing that they're unstoppable. But you know how I feel, Poffo. If I could just instantly, magically make a wish and just sterilize everyone right now, permanently.
Well, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm totally for it, man. If you could sterilize everyone, give them an allergic reaction to meat, okay, and absolutely deconstruct, dismantle, and expose religions for the frauds they are, okay, do away with the monetary system, we live in paradise, man. We'd have a new world would be born, and it wouldn't be utopia, because, like Jacques Fresco used to say, that's a stagnant, dead end. You got to always keep advancing and always keep innovating and creating and building and designing better and more efficient things.
There is no final destination.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's very interesting, I mean, because I just really hope that things change. But it's kind of a freaky thing, because I'm trying to not lose my happiness. Like, I'm trying to find a way to be happy even if things never change. Because right now, if my happiness and my well-being in life is dependent on other people changing, then there's something wrong, because
you're never gonna find that happiness fulfillment, because you're surrounded by, because we're in the minority right now, but and they're in the majority. But and I know what you mean. What you need to do, Chandler, is just do what you can. That's all, man. That's all you can do. Is it, as long as you've done what you can to make the world a better place, and you've lived up to your own greatest potential, okay, then in your little micro universe, in your little little circle, in your little world, you've converted people, you've educated people, you've influenced people, and you've done enough. That's what each of us do. We each play a part, man. We're just like the cells of a body. So each part, each little little insignificant differentiated part is doing what it can. Then the one next to it's doing the same thing, and eventually you have a chain of cells. You have a molecule, a DNA strand. You have an arm, a leg, a muscle tissue, and that's what creates the body. So focus on you just doing everything that you can do, okay, to make things better in your life for yourself and for those around you. And this is difficult because I know that family is usually it's a failure. Like the ones closest to us, our birth relatives, our immediate nuclear family are usually the ones who completely disagree with us, and we're, we've gone away from their traditional values or lack thereof. So like it's difficult. I know your mom's not a vegan. My dad's not. But like, just do what you can with the influences and that you have, and like you've been fortunate in certain ways. So, use those blessings and don't feel guilty like some people here in Portland for being privileged. That's like the worst thing to them. They think that white privilege is like just such a sin and we should just grovel and feel so bad that we're not a minority. But I'm like, use that position of privilege. Use that position of privilege, man. Like use it. And you're in, if you're in a fortunate position, then it's your duty, it's your responsibility to use it. I mean, you're lucky. Like, don't feel guilty that others are suffering. Like, help to mitigate and ease their suffering, like we're doing.
Yeah, and it's interesting though, because I keep wondering. It's hard to see your own life as others may see it, because like I question like every day almost, like, is the world better for me being here than if I had not been here? I question that almost all the time, and I just wonder because I'm sure
Chandler, my life is better because you're here, and many people who have listened to me speak on your show, it's affecting their lives. And every show that you had before you met me is out there, and even if it's not in our lifetime, this stuff is on the internet, and it's going to affect people, man. You've done more good than you realize. And remember, it's like a butterfly effect, like the ripple effect. Each life, each action, each good deed, it affects someone else, and it just pay it forward, and it just keeps going, just like Quantum Leap, if you remember that show from the 90s. You probably don't remember that show. You should watch that show. It's a good show, man. It's really positive. And this guy, he goes around doing good, just helping people, and he leaps from life to life, like he's in another person's body, but he has to right some kind of wrong, and then when he's done what he's meant to do, he can move on, and he keeps trying to get back home. But it's a beautiful show. It's kind of corny, but I love the sort of the premise, the theme behind it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because it's encouraging to hear you say that, that I am making a difference, because it's just hard to see it.
Of course you are, because that's what you care about. And if someone genuinely cares about something, if someone is genuinely determined and they have a singular goal and a focus, then they will accomplish it. Even if it's not, overtly obvious, to them immediately, like the actions, they reverberate, man.
Yeah, and all the people in history that had some kind of cause, I mean, they probably had those times in their life when they felt like they weren't making a difference.
It was always posthumously that the greatest leaders, the most influential people, they never received any kind of fame or accreditation in their lifetime. It was always after they died. It was always later on. The greatest artists, their paintings weren't worth a damn until later on. So that's just what sucks for us. But we just can't stop. We just got to keep doing everything that we can do, and we get that takes a level of faith. It takes a level of hope, and really not because it's my pantheistic outlook that everything is interconnected with everything else, right? And so everything that we do affects everything else. So really, it's just the knowledge that your actions have consequences and they reverberate. And so if your actions are done coming from a place of genuine virtue and positivity and what's the word, magnanimous intentions, then you'll, no matter what, there's going to be positive consequences, even if you don't see it immediately right in your life. And I know how difficult that can be. I know how frustrating and discouraging. Trust me, I know. I struggle with the exact same issues every day.
Yeah, and it's very interesting though, because here's my thing, Poffo, is sometimes it's hard to know how to react, because when you see people, talking about how sad that they are about their cat that has to be put down after they've just been eating a whole bunch of meat, it's kind of like, does this person really not see that there's no difference?
They don't. They really they don't. They really don't see it. They really are not even thinking about it. That, like, they mourn the loss of a beloved pet who they have a close personal relationship with. They have a bond with, and yet they have contributed to the suffering and the torture and the abuse and the cruelty and the oppression of millions throughout their lives. And it's not, you don't even give it a second thought. Yeah. A cow is a chicken, is a pig, is a fish, is a turkey, is a sheep, is a goat, is a human. We're all animals, and we all suffer the same, and we all experience the same joys and the same sadness and the same grief and the same stress and the same pleasure and fulfillment. So even if our intelligence levels may vary, our sort of cognitive abilities may vary, but in terms of sentience, we all think and feel. So we need to remember that. That's all. That cost.
Yeah, and here's the thing about it, Poffo, is that even though there are those times when I don't feel like I'm making much of a difference, because I don't feel like I'm influencing other people because they seem so brain dead, it's what I do still wouldn't change, because even if I'm not changing other people, I'm still a vegan.
Because you're not doing it for the reward. You're doing it because it's the right thing to do. You're the only one that can say. I mean, I'm trying to make a point. The atheists, or people who don't believe in heavenly reward and divine reimbursement, that we're the only ones who are actually doing things for the right reasons.
Yeah. Because, Poffo, this is a really funny idea, and in fact, I want our listeners to pay attention to this, because I had this idea. What if somebody made like a fictional movie? Like, in this fictional movie, there is a God. Okay, there's a God, kind of like the Judeo-Christian God, but a lot nicer. Okay, and what God does is makes everyone think that there's no God and that there's no afterlife and that this life is it, so that he can see who's doing things for the right reason or not.
So I've thought the exact same thought as I was letting go of my faith, as I was giving it up. I said, okay, I'm going through all this, and there's no way. But I was led to not believe. I've been led to all this information, one thing to another, whether it's history, comparative mythology, religion, the origins of Christianity, all of it. And yet, like, what if I spent an entire life as an unbeliever, but it was all a test? And really, there really is a God, and I actually lived a virtuous life, and I did things for the right reasons. That was the only way that I could really be good, was once I stopped believing in God. But there is a God up there, and it's like it's just it's sort of like a deception, but in a good way. We're gonna find out, because I think Richard Dawkins said, when you meet God or whatever, what are you going to say? He's like, well, I would hope that, he would appreciate the fact that I was honest, and I didn't lie. I didn't believe in something based on bad evidence, that I did the best that I could with, and I would say, why didn't you make yourself more available? He would say, look, if he's talking to God, he would say, why didn't you make it plain? Why didn't you make it clear? And why so much confusion and being so obscure, just reveal yourself so that people know what to do and how to live.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's an interesting thought because I've had many of these thoughts through the years. During my process of deconverting from Christianity. I was thinking about that. What if God playing hide and seek was the only way for humanity to evolve to a point where they're doing the right thing, not for a reward, but because it's the right thing?
You're a true philosopher, Chandler, and it's interesting because I haven't talked to you in a long time, and I'm really not involved as much in my philosophy groups and the pantheist groups. I've spent so much time, doing the outreach and activism and stuff. So I'm continuously around people who really don't think on these levels. They're directly doing good and trying to educate and inform people, but they're not thinking these deep thoughts. And so let's just because I think I have to go in a little bit, maybe like 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
But let's explore this because this will give you happiness. Trust me. Like, let's explore these sort of hypothetical scenarios that us philosophers are so easily able to sort of contemplate and like play around with. So let's just pretend there is a benevolent force for good in this world, Chandler. There really is a true spirit of God. There is a benevolent deity that is looking out for us, protecting us, watching over us, providing for us, and through our own biology, through the divine life principle that's in all things, through the earth, through Mother Gaia itself, is speaking to us and guiding us and leading us. And it's just not the anthropomorphized, macho chauvinistic God in the sky with testicles. It's not that God, but there really is a God. There really is a God, and it actually is working through us, and we're doing all the right things right now, being vegan. Now let's take a number 2 scenario. Let's say that this is so funny because I keep coming back to this. We used to have these exercises that we would explore in my groups, where I would say, okay, let's pick something that is disgusting and gross and undesirable, and let's talk about it, and let's try to find its purpose, and in some way let's prove how it's also divine. Because remember the big argument with pantheism is, oh, everything is divine. That rock, the bad things that happen, the slug, the flea, these things are all God. Come on. So I would have this exercise where we would pick like these gross things that people, there's no way you can consider that to be divine. And then we would think about it and reason it out, and we'd find its purpose. So this is what's so interesting is ticks, right? They seem so useless. They seem like this parasite that everybody hates. You just want to kill them. They're on your animals. You can get, when you're out in the woods hiking, they can get on you. Well, look at what nature is doing with ticks now. Like, nature is using the most reviled little species that is so insignificant and seems like there's no purpose behind it, and yet it's using ticks to now give everyone the meat allergy. So nature itself is going to make everyone stop eating meat and balance things out and save the planet. So that's scenario number 2. Okay. There was another one. Scenario number 3. This is really personal. Let me think. The good that we do, like our actions that are unseen, our inner dialogue, our thoughts, everything, the suffering that we experience and the suffering that all animals everywhere experience, somehow that's being kept on record, like in the Akashic records or something. It's being saved, and it is going to inspire and educate and motivate, millions of generations, just billions of years from now. Like our life story, each and every one of us, each and every individual soul, even the most insignificant, species, their struggle and their fight and what they're going through is a movie somewhere else that's like, it's being played, that's inspiring others, and it's not going to waste. Like your suffering, your sacrifices, the effort that you've put in, what no one sees, man. They would say that the real true goodness is how you are when no one's looking, right? Well, the good things that you've done in your life and the effort and the energy that you've put out, it's being recorded, it's being watched, it's being witnessed, and it's being saved, and you will get that reward when all is said and done, when the scales are balanced in some way. Like, we're going to end up living forever. We're going to extend the telomeres so the telomeres don't degrade. We're gonna use the nanotechnology that George was talking about, and we're gonna basically conquer death, and we're gonna use our struggle, which will seem like an eternity away. It's so far away. It will just be like a bad dream that we had at one time. That all of that is going to be used and made into the grandest sort of drama, like a play, like a theatrical play that throughout the universe will be played. We are that great experiment in struggling and suffering and overcoming the obstacles and overcoming the odds. And that it won't be wasted. It's not that it's just an accident. It's not that just all this shit is just happening and we're just like a blink in time and we're going to disappear and we'll never be remembered. Everything we do that was positive and good and noble and virtuous and benevolent will be remembered, and it'll be used as education for other species and other galaxies. So think about that.
Yeah, that's the best we can hope for, isn't it? To be remembered for what we're doing rather than it all being a waste of time.
Yeah, and that's why people have children. They try to live on for their children, and that's why people make art. That's why people write books, so that their story can be told and they can become legend. So just think of it like that, man. Maybe we are the ones who are going to be written about in the history books and talked about, and told, how the vegans and the activists and those fighting for the environment and those standing up for injustice and trying to do away with oppression, that we're the ones who are going to be the heroes to someone else in some legendary tale. Just think of that, man, because it could happen. That could very well be the birth of legends. That's where all these myths came from, was just people telling stories that probably started with a real, like Asclepius maybe was like a healer. He's the Greek god of medicine and healing, and he was a kind physician, and then he was sort of deified. So maybe you'll be like the god of podcasts, and the work that you did will be remembered, and you'll be sort of thought about, significantly, like years and years from now.
Yeah, I'll be the legendary unicorn. That's what I'll be.
The last unicorn.
Yeah. The last.
In that movie, The Kingdom of Heaven, with Orlando Bloom, there's a sign above his blacksmith little station, and it says, it's in Latin, I think, and it basically says, "What would I be, or what am I if I don't leave the world a better place," or something like that, or if I don't make things better. I wish I remembered the exact quote, but that's the philosophy to live by, man. Like, do as much good as you can, so that so that when you die, you'll regret nothing and you won't be ashamed.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Poffo. And even though, right now I'm having this struggle where I get depressed and discouraged, I will say this: there's a power in it too. The fact that I'm so upset about all these things that I don't like happening in the world, that's what drives me to continue doing what I'm doing. Sure, I'm being fueled completely negatively from all my reaction to just seeing all the animal slaughter and knowing that, but it keeps me going, just because I'm so repulsed by it.
It's proof that you have a heart, man. It's showing, you're an example of humanity, of the goodness that is in God, that is in nature, that comes through these life forms, these highly evolved life forms that that we are. You're a witness to you're a testimony to the benevolence of the universe, that there is a benevolent power that's at work, that's working through the highest evolved life forms that are recognizing right from wrong and good and evil and all that stuff. So like, you are a tool for goodness, and we all are, if we allow ourselves to be, if we just live up to our own highest ideals and embrace the value systems that we have, and stay true and consistent to them, and not think that life is about all these other things, because it's really not, man. Like life is this journey, and it's the struggle, but like, if you want to be remembered, do the best you can. That's best advice anybody can give is just do what you can.
Yeah.
And do it to the best of your ability.
Yeah, and I guess you could say we are the planet fighting back.
That's right, man. We are. And what better? I mean, we got opposable thumbs, we got these big craniums, we got the frontal lobe, we've got the vocal box, we've got our larynx, we can speak, we can create art, we've got 10 fingers and toes, we've got we are a perfect species to bring balance to this earth, to end suffering, because we can make these advancements, because we can build and we can manipulate the environment, and we can like, we're not evolving physically anymore, we're evolving intellectually, psychologically.
But yeah, it's true that the human species is the most powerful animal on the planet, whether for good or bad. We are the most influential.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad that that's what we are. Although I wouldn't mind being the tick that makes people allergic to meat.
I want to say we're not the most valuable intrinsically, but we can be. Does that make sense? So it's not that humans are greater. We're really not good for the planet, but like, we are the only species that can really turn things around at this point, and make a difference. Like, first thing in our own societies on the damage that we're causing, and then towards the animal kingdom. Like, it's not that we are above other animals in terms of value. It's that, like, we have greater potential and capacity for influence on this earth.
I would say because we're the most influential.
Yeah.
Poffo, this has actually been a very good talk, I think.
Well, that's it. Always is when I'm on, right?
Yeah, Poffo.
you always say that.
Yeah, see, Poffo, you see now why I wanted you to come on.
I appreciate it. I'm not, I know that sounds egotistical or whatever, but I'm a passionate person, and I've got a lot of intensity, and I've got a lot going on upstairs, and I never stop, man. Like, this is my whole life. So I know that I bring a lot, to the table.
Yeah.
And I just hope that I hope I can get better at articulating it and expressing it and explaining things. I never feel like I'm a good enough speaker.
Well, that's the trouble I have, is I just never feel like I'm a powerful enough speaker. I never feel like I have the emotional strength to take people on when they're difficult, But
yeah, I could take them on. I could take on anybody, man. I don't have a problem with that at all. What I have a problem with is the same thing you talked about earlier, is taking care of yourself, like rejuvenating and recuperating, and being able to recharge and get your strength back, and do the things that bring value and meaning, in all of this, that will help you rejuvenate. So probably repeated that. But that's really important, man. And we should make a whole show just about animal rights activists and vegans and burnout, and how to avoid becoming emotionally depleted.
Yeah,
and
that's actually a good idea.
Learning how to take care of yourself. I think we should have a show just about that.
Yeah, we should do that. We should have different vegan activists on and have them tell how they keep going. What do they do when they get discouraged, so that people get tips from all the people, So I know that you have to get going to Poffo. I know I don't want you to miss your event where you're listening to that Will Tuttle. So let me just do a quick outro, and then you can go.
All right, man.
Okay, you've been listening.
And Chandler, thanks, Chandler. I just want to thank you again for inviting me on, because I wasn't going to do it, but thanks for sort of insisting.
Yeah, you're welcome. I really wanted you to join because it's been a long time since we talked. So, okay, you've been listening to Philosophy, Science, and Religion, and it's just been me, Chandler Klebs, along with Poffo and George, and we were talking about, veganism and activism and whether or not people can change. And sometimes it's become unclear, but the message is, do what you can and try to keep your sanity, keep your happiness. You take care of yourself, not just everybody, other animal on the planet, but yourself. Be kind to your animal self. Thank you for listening.
Don't give up.
Yeah, don't give up. Yeah. Thank you for listening. Goodbye, everybody.